Welcome to Books, Booze, and Murder. I'm Anna.
And I'm Alexa.
We're two besties who love to read and, like many, have a fascination with true crime.
Before we begin today's episode, we want to remind listeners that our focus this month is on domestic violence and abuse. We understand this can be triggering for many and may not be your cup of tea due to life circumstances. At the end of this episode, we will go over a list of resources to help you or someone else you may know, and we will also list them in our show notes, but both on Spotify and YouTube. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to June. Woo! And it is hot as fuck.
It's hot here today. It's going to be hot all week, man.
But with that said, it is June, and you're finishing off the school year.
I have 2.5 days left with the demons.
With the demons.
They are demons. Every teacher will agree that by the end of the school year, all children are no longer children. They are swamp demons. Ask anyone.
But with that said, and if any of our listeners follow us on Instagram, they know this by now, you just got tenured!
I just got tenure, meaning as a new teacher. It took me 4 years of good reviews, recommendations, and observations in order for me to get this. So that was a big weight off my back. Hallelujah. I now only have one observation per year.
Yes.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Hallelujah.
But, I think the one detail you haven't mentioned is why this is such a big deal. And, again, if any of our listeners are familiar with what's going on in the world right now, especially in New York, there's a lot of funding being taken away from the education system.
Teachers are getting their asses handed to them, not that we haven't already. But especially recently, especially in our area, a lot of funding for education has been cut. So that means a lot of new teachers have been let go.
Yeah. And I know you were worried about it because you're like, is my job at risk? Because wasn't there a local school around us where they laid off a bunch of teachers this spring?
There's a few.
Oh, right, yes.
There was a few in this area. One school is a smaller school district than ours, and they let go 9 of their teachers, I think. Teachers and TAs, maybe. Another local school that's about an hour away from us let go 19 or 17 or something like that. And then another that was a little bit more downstate had to let go of 19 or something. And I'm like... And it's funny. I've been having this conversation with some of my coworkers. Now, mind you, some of my coworkers are on the tail end of their careers. They're getting ready to retire in 3 years-ish. And they have even said, I would not encourage anyone to go into the teaching profession.
Really?
Not anymore. I would not encourage anyone to do it anymore. And I'm like, we're in a bad situation if that is what retirees are thinking. Even people who are not retirees, even people who are only 10 years into their career, and they're saying that, I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd encourage people to do it. I'm very lucky that in our school district, I seem to have the support of my principal and my administration.
Yeah.
Hallelujah for that. And I do so much for my school, but yeah, I don't know why anyone would want to become a teacher nowadays.
And is it just because you guys feel like you're being deprived of essential resources that, let's say when we were in school, we had it and now it's not available?
I think that's part of it. That's definitely part of it, whereas our funding is being depleted, and so we're not able to get the resources that we need. Another piece to that, though, I just had the thought and I lost it. It was there and then it was gone. Is kids are coming into school, we're still getting through all the COVID kids.
Yeah. But
we are not. All these COVID kids have all these different types of issues going on, I will say. For example, my sister-in-law's son, he's a COVID kid. So him and mom were besties for a very, very long time, and now they got to fix it. He's also one of those kids that he really could not be socialized with other kids because he has neutropenia. So
what is that again?
So if he's exposed to any type of bacteria, he will not be able to fight off anything. So he's normally has to go to the ER. He has to have fluids and blah, 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 blah. So it's a minor cold for us is a big deal for him. A little scratch from splinters is a big deal for him.
So, like, staying as respectfully as possible, but for comparison purposes, he's essentially a bubble boy.
He's kind of like a bubble boy. That's exactly what he
kid.
is. So, like, thankfully they say he's going to grow out of it, but that's a whole other, beside the point.
Yeah.
That is a whole other, that's a whole other issue that we're running into now, is that kids and their parents have a stronger relationship, which is not a bad thing, but I feel like there are kids that are coming into school now because all these parents, I want to say all these parents, that's, but soft parenting doesn't work as well, I think, as people think, because they're not doing it right.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that I hear, and that's the biggest thing that we're encountering right now, is that some kids are coming into school and they are just plain disrespectful, and there's not a lot of backup from administration. I, thankfully, do not have that problem. My administration backs me up pretty well, or my administrator, I should say, but they are on it, and it's great.
Yeah.
Sadly, I had to, a child had, one of my lovely little students had to get OSS because of field day yesterday.
Oh, lovely.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, your job is secure.
My job's secure now
And
until further notice.
So,
hallelujah.
and I totally humiliated you last night, and I'm not
I
sorry.
hate you. You're not sorry at all. Not even a little bit. So, fuck you.
Yep. Middle
Fuck
finger,
you.
fuck you. Oh, the love is there.
Oh yes, of course.
Oh. But next order of business, if you've been with us from the beginning, you know our first case was an unsolved murder, and that was the murder of Rachel Morin from August of 2023. And as of Monday, so a few days ago as of this recording, there's been an arrest.
Oh my goodness. Is it the same person that we thought it was?
Yes.
Oh!
Yeah.
They found him.
Yeah, and it's insane. So, according to a CBS News article from the 17th, El Salvador native arrested for 2023 murder of Maryland mom Rachel Morin. So that's the headline.
Mm-hmm.
An undocumented migrant was arrested for the high-profile murder of Rachel Morin, the mother of 5 who was killed along a popular hiking trail in Harford County, Maryland in August of 2023. Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, a 23-year-old from El Salvador, 23-year-old, was arrested on Friday at a bar in Tulsa, Oklahoma, according to the Harford County Sheriff. And this was from a Saturday news conference, so like right before I think this was published.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez is being charged with first-degree murder and first-degree rape. The deputies...
Good choice.
Yeah, I know, right? The deputies are working to extradite Martinez Hernandez to Maryland, which could take 30 to 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
Do I know why? No, but I'm sure it's a process.
Politics.
Yeah. And then according to the Harford County Sheriff, attorney Allison Healy will be the prosecutor in the case. I do have additional information. It's not much, but it's something. The sheriff said back up, words. Hello. The sheriff said a lead involving genetic genealogy. Yes, genetic genealogy.
Love genetic genealogy.
Oh, so good.
Good things have come of it.
I know,
Hallelujah.
Right? Holy shit, the amount of closed case, well, not cold cases, not closed cases, but oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But a genetic genealogy lead led them to their suspect in Oklahoma. Officers said that when they approached Hernandez at the bar, he lied about who he was, red flag, and his alleged crimes. So hopefully he'll never have to have the opportunity to walk free again, said the Harford County Sheriff.
Hallelujah.
But here's the other violent crimes that make him a prime suspect for sure. He had crossed the border into the U.S. in February of 2023 after an arrest warrant was issued for the murder of a young woman in El Salvador in January of 2023. And this was according to the sheriff.
Interesting.
And then, as of course we know, and this is a little bit more information that I didn't know at the time, then in March of 2023, investigators said he assaulted a 9-year-old girl. So that was
thank you.
Yeah, that was that minor I was talking about.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so
that's no longer a minor. That's a baby. That's a very small child.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Yep. So he assaulted the 9-year-old girl, and her mother at their home in L.A. The suspect obviously has connection. Well, he does have connections with family, I'm assuming, in the Washington, D.C. area, in both Virginia and Prince George's County, Maryland. And shocker, not shocker, has ties to known gangs.
Oh, lovely.
So that is the lead that just came out at this point.
So my personal opinion on that, don't put him in jail. Send him back to El Salvador. Let the gangs take care of him there. Seriously though, if you're trying to avoid gangs, nope, bye-bye. Toodles, go back. Nope, you're causing trouble here. Nope, I'm not paying for you to stay in a nice comfy jail cell. No way, Jose.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in that field. But I do feel like he needs to be held accountable for a certain amount of time for Rachel's case, just for justice for her. And then he can be transferred to El Salvador. He can be held on trial for his shit down there. And all of that time can be put together in the worst jail down there.
Please and
Prison
thank you.
Down there.
Please.
So.
Find a deep, dark hole.
So either way, an arrest has been made, and it's been almost a year.
Well, hallelujah. Good for that family. I hope she rests peacefully.
Sure. Absolutely. All right.
Stupid.
And as we all know, last month was Bridgerton, and the second season came out not that long ago.
Yep. And then
second
it was
half
only,
of the season.
I was about to say, it was only the first half that I was able to watch, and of course it ended in that super steamy scene in the carriage, and I'm like,
hello!
You're ending it there.
They know what they're doing.
Oh.
I
have yet to watch the second half of the season because busy lives.
Yeah.
End of school and packing the room and classes that I have to take to be a kindergarten teacher is great. It's my favorite.
I mean, honestly, watch episode 5 and then call it good.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to give you a spoiler of it all.
That's fine.
So in talking about episode 5, overall, I'm actually very disappointed.
That's saying something because you're all about it too.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed, and I want to, specify, I'm not disappointed in the acting. The acting, I thought, was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I thought everything except for the storyline, specifically, the storyline was great. Storyline was trash.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Because
that's what makes the show, I think. You can have the best actors in the world. If you have a shit story, you're going to have a shit story.
Yeah. And then in looking at a lot of what people are saying about it, a lot of people have been saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm definitely not alone. And I think what I saw was there was a changeover in who is producing it, I think. Mm-hmm. My dog's just casually in the background, just having at it.
It's fine.
I walked him in the heat. But either way, going back to Bridgerton, episode 5 is the one you want to watch, because that's where they have sex for the first time. And I want Penelope's boobs. I'm pretty flat-chested. I am a BC cup. I'm tiny. I want her boobs.
She's got some nice boobs.
I'm yes,
I was going to say, I think I've gotten through most of the first episode. I have not gotten all the way through the first episode of the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. So I have seen that sex scene, and that is...
Oh, it's good.
It's good.
But I also appreciate the fact that, obviously when you're signing up for a job in acting, if there's a sex scene or whatever it may be in, the intimacy area, it's clear that, boundaries were... being followed, and that's what I really respected. Did you notice how Penelope, Nicola, her first name, the actress's name, was I can do, I'm sure she said I can do one chest shot, and then I kind of want to be covered up. And I thought that was actually really perfect, because not everyone is the same. Not everyone's okay with, their entire backside being shown.
Sure.
So I thought that, first of all, highlighting a character who's not a twig, which that's Penelope's character anyway.
Yes.
Was refreshing.
Yes, very much so.
So that was kind of my thoughts, was I was happy with that scene. I thought her size were a little bit but it is what it is.
Fair. Okay.
But what the fuck is up with Eloise this season?
Dude, she's got a stick up her ass or something, and I'm just I'm annoyed with her.
Yeah.
She's annoying me.
Yeah. But again, it's the actress's ability to fucking annoy us, which is okay, she did a good job. But I'm what the fuck?
Yeah.
I just thought she's just throwing one big temper tantrum the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. It's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be mad at you. And you're going to be my new sister-in-law? I'm still going to be mad at you, and you should tell him, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, would you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
Can you be happy for her, please?
I mean, in the books, wasn't she more like a recluse? Like, she was, like, hiding something, clearly, which we found out at the end of the book why. But wasn't she more of a recluse?
Her and Penelope were friends throughout the entire book.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire book, they're still friends, but they, like, just changed it up ever so slightly so that now it wasn't that way.
Yeah.
It's like Eloise found out last season that Penelope was Lady Featherington, but that's not the way it was
Lady
in the book.
Whistledown.
Yes, that's what I meant.
It's okay. It's hot.
It's hot, man. But yeah.
But I don't understand the strong focus on Francesca this season. It's not Francesca's season. It's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Whose season is it?
It's Colin and Penelope's season, not Francesca.
But it's Francesca's opening season. That's, I think, the point of it. It's her first season.
True.
They always have to pick one to have the first season because that's the whole reason behind it. Yes, it is Colin and Penelope's season, but it's not Penelope's first season.
True. But I also think, like, there was so much attention on Francesca that I thought wasn't quite necessary. Like, I thought it took away from Colin and Penelope. I was like...
It's like they're trying to split their time too much, almost.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like they're trying to do two very big storylines.
Mm.
I actually felt like it was more than two big storylines, actually.
Yeah.
Because they have Penelope and Colin's storyline.
Yeah.
And then they have Francesca's storyline. And then Benedict is kind of in the back doing his own thing, storyline. And then there's... What's her cunty face? The other bitch who's going to be marrying the old guy and...
Oh.
God, what's her name? That's Eloise is now being best friends with. Cressida, thank you. God, she sucks. She sucks.
Yeah, I have notes about her for sure. But wasn't it the Queen that started the competition as far as finding Lady Whistledown?
Yes.
Not Lady Danbury?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, what?
Yes, the Queen, yeah. By the way, I love how they did Lady Danbury in the books.
Yeah.
Where she's like this crotchety old lady, but she's got such a personality.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've kind of split that personality that was in the book in between the Queen and the actual Lady Danbury. Yeah. Oh, and then there's also the storyline of Colin's mother.
Yes, Violet.
And
Lady Danbury's brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole other storyline there, too. And I'm just like, what? You're doing a lot.
Yeah. I
felt like there was definitely doing a lot there.
Again, like, the fact that they have someone else who has kind of taken over for that, I think really hindered the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like, yes, other storylines can happen, but the focus should have been on Colin and Penelope, and I didn't think that happened fully.
Right.
As well as it could have been in the second half.
Right.
And I didn't think that the Cressida storyline was necessary at all.
No. I mean, obviously in the book it is necessary because there's... That's important there.
Well, but, yeah, her involvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just like...
Yeah.
You're a giant pain in the ass, is what you are.
And then I'm loving the storyline, and I don't remember the characters' names, but when they're the ones that came into New Wealth.
Yes.
I actually love that highlighting, because I don't feel like it's overstated too much. It's the perfect balance. Mm-hmm. But I like that they got an upgrade. I was like, yeah, I can get behind this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Again, another note I have is, I'm happy with Francesca getting married, and then in all caps, but this is not her storyline.
Let her have her time, damn it!
Oh my gosh. And then I loved the showdown between Cressida and the Queen. Holy shit. And she's like, I'm Lady Whistledown, and the Queen's like, prove it. I don't believe
Write
you.
me something that is Whistledown-esque standards, and we'll talk.
Yeah.
It's like, that sounds about right. You can't just come out and say that and then expect people to hand you money, you dumb bitch.
Yeah. No. I mean, I understand why. Like, she wants to get away from her parents. She wants to have independence. But at the same time, she doesn't want to get married to a crotchety asshole man.
Oh my gosh. I don't blame her. Like, I almost don't blame her for doing it. Mm-hmm. Because I wouldn't want to marry a dust bag either who wants like 3 kids. And I'm like, no, yucky.
Yeah.
Ooh, that like to each their own, but no, that's a yucky for me.
Yeah.
No, no touchy.
Let's see, what other notes? I mean, I just loved how Genevieve, the dressmaker, encourages Penelope to keep writing. That it was very weird to hear Lady Featherington actually be nice to Penelope because Colin told her off. And it was like a complete transition of, oh, my daughter's actually intelligent. I should actually be nice to her.
That was wonderful. I gotta say, that was wonderful because, yeah, Lady Featherington sucks. I am not a fan of her either. I understand why she does it. I totally understand that she's just like, I need people in my family to do things, and that's like society appropriate. I need that in my life now because I can't do it without them. My husband has buried me.
Yeah. But I became a fan of her in the end.
Okay.
Because she turns over a new leaf. And I'm like, damn, girl.
I'll take it. Fine.
Let's see. Oh, did you notice how weird the camera shots were this season?
No.
Like, as someone who has a degree in mass communication and video production, like, I noticed these things. And there was one point in the first half of the season where the camera is showing the couple that came into wealth, and it's, like, an awkward lower angle looking up at them, and the camera is shaky. And I'm like, this framing is garbage. And there was a few other spots where the framing, I was just like, this is distracting.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't want to go over all these notes because I got too detailed and hyperfixation this morning. Oh my gosh.
Any other big points you want to hit on, though?
I mean, so this wasn't in the book, but Penelope's sisters throw a ball. And, of course, that's when the family's under investigation and they're under threat for having all their money taken away from them. Penelope digs into her secret stash of money and, pretending to be her mom, funds the entire ball.
Wow. And that's really nice.
Yeah. And then, like, so Penelope and her mom walk in and the sisters are thanking the mom and the mom's like, what? And then that's when she looks over at Penelope and it's just like, oh shit. Like, she put together all this money. And then that's when Penelope tries to take everything into her own hands about being Lady Whistledown. And she talks to everyone. And at the end, it could be very awkward. And one of the sisters, like, super ditzy one, runs across the ballroom and is like, now! And I think it was, like, Mitzi, who is the maid. She's like, now, Mitzi! And there's an entire cage full of butterflies that get released.
Wow.
So I thought that was the perfect way to represent the metaphor of, like, turning a new leaf. Like, just, it's letting something free.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the gender change?
Yes. Okay. We consider ourselves allies of the LGBTQ plus community. But there's a certain level where I'm like, this is changing the entire plot for a well-established book and series where I think it's too much. So,
just to be clear,
yeah,
the character does not have a gender change in the story.
Yes.
The gender is changed from the book to the series.
Yes.
To incorporate into the LGBTQ plus genre.
And I think
I was confused about that when you had first said it. I was like, wait, they made a gender change in 18th century England?
No.
Understood now.
No, they changed the character in general. So, like, I personally haven't read past Colin and Penelope's story.
Right.
Because I'm like, I want to keep everything fresh by the time a new season comes out. And what I do know is that Francesca marries this guy. He dies, and she falls in love with his cousin. And the cousin in the books is a male character named Michael. They changed the character from a man to a woman named, like, Michaela or something like that. So it opens up the door for a queer episode in the future. And I think that's bullshit, because it's changing the storyline way too much to try to please everyone.
Yes.
And, like, if you're gonna do that, have the writing in general be queer. That's fine. But it's too much.
It's trying to shoehorn something in that's, like, not necessarily fitting appropriately.
Right. And one of the arguments I saw online was, like, I'm very disappointed in Julia Quinn for allowing a lot of this to happen.
Yeah.
She was like, I wrote these characters, but how, like, I'm okay with different changes, and I'm like, no.
That's
like,
a big change.
Don't endorse this level. Like, no.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't feel like the threesome, like, when beginning with Colin and the two women, I thought that was a bit over top, but I was like, okay. But Benedict's involvement with a threesome as well, and exploring his sexuality, I'm like, cool, but you're completely changing a story. And he's already been gypped because he was supposed to be season 3.
Right.
So it's like, okay, like, I can deal with that. There was a lot of hype over Colin and Penelope. But I'm just like, this is too much.
There's too much going on there.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, and personally, what I think is that if they continue down this road, I'll probably stop watching it. Because there's only so much bullshit and a change of a book to a TV series that I can handle.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on Bridgerton.
That's very fair. That is very, very fair.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Moving on.
Have you read any good books lately?
Well, so as I just told you, I'm in the middle of 2 books. So I'm the psycho where I have to read a book at night and then I listen to a book. And I have a friend who's nice enough that she's letting me borrow her Libro FM account. And she's got like 90 something books that are downloaded. So I'm like, yes. So I'm listening to Remarkably Bright Creatures right now. I'm already loving it. I'm very surprised by it. I was not expecting a lot of what I've already read. Loving it already. And then I am a little over 100 pages into The Book Thief, which I started reading, and I'm already 100% obsessed with it. And I just want to sit down on my couch and cuddle up and read the whole entire freaking thing. It is so interesting. I've never read a book read quite like that. And I'm so excited to see what the rest of it goes through. Mm-hmm. On the other note, though, I did end up reading, of course, the second Housemaid book. The Housemaid is Watching. Mm. I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. And I read the Alice Hoffman book, which she liked our post. That was exciting. That was an exciting day for me.
Well, you didn't even know. I go, Alexa, Alice Hoffman liked this post. Holy shit.
It was so cool. That was cool. And what other books have I read recently? I almost have to go and scroll through Instagram to see what I've read recently.
Oh, I have my Instagram up.
I cannot remember. For the life of me, I cannot remember. Well, I have to pull up our Instagram page because I don't upload all my books to the other one, which is hi, I'm a psycho. I don't know.
You're fine.
What else? Oh, on the ride down to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Oh, so it was so long ago. Feels like it was so long ago at this point. I read Jodi Picoult's Harvesting the Heart. So good. Another really, really good one. November 9th. And I was like, I had to read it. That's my birthday. I have to read it just to see what the hype's about.
Yeah.
So good, actually. I was pretty impressed with that one. It's like, and that was sappy love story, never will actually work type of thing. But, so good. And then I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. That one I thought was really cool too. And the ending, that book frustrated me a little bit. Mm-hmm. It was a little annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's these 2 people that are relatively young in high society in London, I think. So they go to balls, they get new dresses every time and new suits. And it's and they always talk, and the whole premise of the book is they were together and then they are no longer together because the guy cheated on the girl. The girl is not with anyone else, but the guy fucks anything that moves. And then they literally just do it to hurt each other. That's the entire freaking book. Holy smokes. But but they're best friends at the same time. Yeah. It's so weird. So it's interesting. That was an interesting book. And of course, in the end, I was just like, no, you stupid.
So you wouldn't recommend it?
No, I'd read it. I tell you to read it.
Got it.
It's a lot of those and so it's so funny. I'm not a big, like, detail in book type of person, but this book portrays the female character, and her name is Magnolia Parks.
Okay.
So, and they call her Parks throughout the entire book. But Parks is this high society 20-something-year-old. And she can tell you exactly what people are wearing from what line, in what year, like, just by looking at you for about half a second. So it's a lot of when you're in her brain, and it switches between the points of view of the girl and the guy.
Yeah.
So in her point of view, she's mentioning a lot of like a lot of the name brand stuff from where I don't know what it is, so I like skim over that part every now and then because I don't understand. It's like, oh, it's a pretty dress. It's a high-end tailored suit.
Yeah.
That's all you need to tell me.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of...
It's funny that you mentioned that because I read The Chase, which is like the spin-off for that Elle Kennedy's book that we read.
Yes.
And it features Dean's younger sister.
Ooh.
Who's really into fashion. So she like knows Prada and all of that. So that's what I was thinking. So I have been borrowing those books from Libby. Like when I'm ready for it on ebook and reading through all of that. I've been reading those in one day.
I've seen that. That's wow. No, not at all.
But it's also funny that you brought up you listen to Remarkably Bright Creatures because holy crap, that was only June 5th that I finished it. The description doesn't do it justice.
No.
And I think that's the first book that I've been able to say that with.
Yeah.
The book description doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
I also read The Inmate by Frida McFadden. It's funny how we were in our local, like, big commercial box store, just happened to find that book, had no idea, and then we're like, holy shit, this is so good. So I read The Inmate, but as you know, I'm really involved in this fitness app called The Next Fitness Thing. So I'm starting another book club, and this is the featured book. So I'm not going to talk too much about it.
Okay.
But of course, if you want to hear me talk about it, $1 a year, you can have access to it.
There you
There's
go.
that. Two for the Dough, which is the second book in the Stephanie Plum series back from the 90s, and I'm like, I know that she's released a lot of other books than that, so I'm very behind. And then I did just finish reading The Housemaid is Watching. Holy shit, but I'll save that description for another day. Because fun things be happening. Cool. All right. Because this is a domestic violence and domestic abuse episode, do you want to introduce to us the drink this month?
Sure. So in addition to our lovely purple shirts, because purple is the color of domestic violence and abuse, we are also drinking a lovely purple drink that is lemonade, gin, and lavender syrup, and a little bit of starfruit seltzer.
And it is so good.
It's very dangerous.
If I start slurring my words at the end of this episode, I'm blaming the drink.
As you should. Because there was a lot of gin in there.
But it's so good. So we have a picture here. It's going to be great. Purple all the way. So, alrighty. What do we have? I do have the books over there.
Fabulous.
So, do you want to give us a recap of what we've picked, what you picked for this month and all about it?
All right. So, I have been meaning to read these books now for at least a few months. And I am so glad that I finally got a chance to read them. These are the dynamic duo books of It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. You must read them in order. It is ends and then starts, not the other way around. Just so we're clear on that. And you know, it's funny. I remember reading these on spring break. And of course, we had the lovely eclipse this past spring break. And I remember finishing the book, sitting out in my yard, and typing out my notes on my little tablet as the eclipse was going on. It was perfect timing.
Yeah, we were in a hot spot.
We were right within the totality. We were totally in the path of totality. It was so freaking cool. I've seen one other one. What was the last one we had? It was like 2017?
Yes, 2016.
2017. So.
Oh, maybe it was 2016.
I think it was 2017. Anyways, so I was close to the path of totality because I lived in North Carolina at that time. So the path of totality was like Myrtle Beach, and where my grandparents live, it's like 2 hours north of them. So it wasn't very far. So I was in a pretty good path where I could still see it get dark. I could feel it get cold. But of course, we were on the beach, so we didn't care.
Yeah, for sure.
But so anyway, to get started, you're going to snuggle right on in. We're going to start with It Ends With Us. So this story kind of ripped me apart and put me back together. It starts off with Lily Bloom, who is from a small town in Maine. We find out quickly that her father recently died of cancer and was an abusive prick to her mother. But being the mayor of said small town, nothing happened. The mother never left and survived years of abuse, probably some foreshadowing. Duh. Lily went back for his funeral, gave the best eulogy ever, and peaced out and went back to Boston. She meets a very handsome stranger on a rooftop who also happens to be a neurosurgeon in residency named Ryle. I am glad that I watched the trailer for this too, because I would not have called him Ryle.
What would you have called him?
Riley.
Oh.
That's how I read it, is Riley.
I've been reading it. Interesting. I read it as Ryle too. Well,
I mean, I understand why it would be read as Ryle now that I know it's actually pronounced that, but I'm like, okay. I'm glad I know the difference now. Their first encounter is completely unexpected, with him being pissed at the world for a poor boy that died that evening, and Lily recovering from her trip to visit her mother at the funeral. Lily and Ryle exchanged naked truths, which are the barest, no-holds-barred truths to each other. Ryle's is the truth about the boy they lost because he was playing with his brother and they found a loaded gun which killed the brother. This is significant, remember it. Lily's truth turns out to be losing her virginity to a homeless boy. Ryle admits that he never wants a relationship because his life is far too busy and his career comes first. As he is called away back to the hospital, they don't exchange numbers, just one picture that Ryle took with his phone, and off he went. Months pass, and Lily quits her job to open a super edgy, very different type of flower shop, which I would want to go to. Please and thank you. That's the only type of flowers I really want. It sounds amazing. A woman named Alyssa comes in looking for a job, and come to find out, her husband is insanely wealthy, and she doesn't need to work at all. She ends up being the best worker that Lily has and Lily's best friend, and the sister to Mr. Neurosurgeon. No relationships, Ryle. Go figure. Like, duh. It starts with a standard love story of infatuation, obsession, I can't live without you, blah, blah, blah. Everything seems perfect until one night after Lily's mom moves to Boston, they go out to a restaurant and run into none other than the boy Lily lost her virginity to in high school, the homeless kid in the house behind hers, Atlas Corrigan. We learn about him from old journals that Lily wrote to Ellen DeGeneres, which I found hilarious, because I guess if you're writing in a journal, you might as well pretend it's someone you would want to talk to. Through these journals, we learn the story of Lily and Atlas when Lily was 15 and Atlas was 18. According to the journal, Lily started by leaving food for him, then started letting him into her house for a shower, which then kindled more and more of a friendship. They spent as much time as they could with each other after school, but Atlas would bolt as soon as either of Lily's parents arrived home. As the weather got colder, as it did in Maine, Lily started having Atlas sleep in her bedroom on the floor so he had someplace warm to stay. It ended when Atlas moved to Boston with his uncle for a while at least. On Lily's 16th birthday, Atlas returned, declared he was going into the military, and wanted Lily to find someone better, but said he would return and find her. If he couldn't find her, he didn't want her to wait for him. So now we are at present day, where Lily runs into Atlas at his restaurant in Boston with her mom and her now boyfriend Ryle. They talked about taking it slow, but they seemed to have a fire that burned hot. The encounter between Ryle and Atlas went extremely poorly, and this is where we get the first real hint of the anger that contains Ryle. Like any wicked happy couple in books, something has to go wrong. One night, right before a really important surgery, Lily is cooking dinner and Ryle brought over wine. They were drinking a lot, and Ryle pulls out the casserole with no oven mitt and burns his hand. Like, that was stupid.
Yeah.
I don't even do that, fucking shit-faced, but whatever. Lily, of course, started laughing, and Ryle hits her. Obviously, he's extremely apologetic and she tells him, if you do that again, I will leave you. So, of course, they go back to the restaurant with Lily having a busted eye. Atlas sees it and immediately knows, which causes another altercation. Atlas goes to Lily's work, writes his number down, and sticks it in the back of her phone case. Ryle, of course, finds it later on and pushes her down the stairs, but gaslights Lily into thinking she fell. And I was like,
Yeah.
That's kind of kooky.
Yeah.
This is when we realize that Ryle has a dark and haunting past. He also found a gun with his brother when they were 6 and 7, and Ryle shot his brother and killed him unintentionally. This is when we find out that he is in therapy, has been in therapy, and has weird blackouts of rage that consume him. Lily forgives him, moves into an apartment with him, runs off to Vegas and elopes with him, and Alyssa has a baby after she thinks that she can't get pregnant. Everything seems right and perfect with the world, but the night Alyssa has her baby, Ryle and Lily have another altercation involving Alice and what he means to her and what she means to him. Ryle goes into another fit of rage, pins her head on the bed, headbutts her, and knocks her out. She wakes up curled in his arms, but manages to weasel out of it and calls Atlas to help her. At the hospital, she gets stitches and realizes that she is 12 weeks pregnant with Ryle's baby. Atlas lets her stay with him for a few days. Ryle goes to London for an internship, and Lily is now forced to keep a secret from her best friend, her husband, and her mother. Eventually, Alyssa corners her. She spills the beans, and it turns out it's the best possible way for Lily. Alyssa is very supportive, and then she gets all excited about a new baby. Ryle comes back early from London and finds out Lily is pregnant. He tries to apologize again, but Lily will not forgive him that easily, not after all the trauma that she went through with her parents. Lily and Ryle finally have their naked truths talk and clear the air. Ryle becomes a supportive partner, but Lily is undecided if they should stay married. In the true drama fashion, Lily proceeds to do the most of single mom stuff. Ryle sleeps on the couch in their apartment, and Lily gives birth to a beautiful baby girl and Ryle by her side. As soon as she gives birth, she asks Ryle for a divorce, but making him step into her shoes, imagining that their daughter was going through the same thing. The cycle of abuse ends with us. So, of course, it ends with us. And, that was a heavy book. That was, I think, one of those books that I read in a few days, too. Yeah. That did not take me long. That was also spring break when I had nothing to do. Which was awesome.
I mean, my thought, going back to the eulogy, is I can't imagine how fucked up a parent-child relationship is, where you go to give a eulogy and you say nothing. Because
I think that was great, though.
Oh,
that was
so great.
Perfect!
But it's a direct reflection of what their relationship was like. And I didn't know, I know the mom didn't speak up much during Lily's childhood, but I think her actions spoke volumes as far as protecting Lily and Atlas. Oh my gosh. But it also says, how much control she was under with Lily's dad. Insane.
Yep.
And I also find it crazy that, leaders of a community or in general can be the most hypocritical. Yeah.
Yes.
And so you're obviously a teacher. If a kid like Atlas started coming into school, do you think anything would have been done as far as investigating his home life? Or do you think that he would have been provided with resources some kids today are provided with?
We have kids that don't have everything that they need. So I think as educators, as people who work in schools and work with kids, we're doing everything that we possibly can for these kids. But, for example, there was an incident the other day where I have a kid who has such a traumatic past, he urinates on himself. He can't control it. And I'm like, that's awful. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And this kid also was wearing jeans, too. Field day yesterday. Hi, it's 85 degrees here. It was hot.
Yeah.
And field day, we're outside all day, and he's getting soaking wet. So our counselor had come up to me, does so-and-so have a pair of shorts? And I'm like,
probably not.
Probably not. Probably not on him. And she's like, well, do we have something here? And I'm like, I have looked.
Yeah.
I have honestly looked, but all of our clothes are for the little kids that have accidents.
Yeah.
And by the time you're in older elementary school, you shouldn't have accidents.
Yeah.
Shouldn't.
You're right.
But even just in this type of situation where, these clothes are now going to fit you appropriately, not even the fact that, we don't even have clothes that you can change into if you happen to pee yourself.
I just thought that was so sad with Atlas. I was like, oh.
So it's I think there are definitely school people that are going to help.
Yeah.
But there are not resources and people in those types of jobs that where it's gonna work. And I've had that conversation too, where I'm like, CPS can't do their job appropriately because they're understaffed, underfunded, and all those other people that are foster parents. I think people do what they can in the best type of situation, but there's not enough being done.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Now, it starts with us.
Well, no, I had a couple other questions.
Oh my gosh.
I agree, though. I can't wait to see the flower shop.
Yes.
Oh my
I
gosh.
can't wait to see what it looks like in the movie. I want to see it!
And then, did anyone actually read the note from the author?
That she wasn't going to write a second...
No, about her history with abuse.
No, I didn't.
So she grew up in an abusive household, and I thought that was the best way for an author to be like, no, like, this is, I based off of my experiences. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to put that note in there.
That's good. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up before we moved on. All right, it starts with us. As you were in mid-sip.
I was about to say, I had to take a sip.
Yep.
And then I'll have to refill at some point, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it starts with us. So again, second book. This second book was not originally going to be written. Originally, Colleen Hoover was just going to write It Ends With Us, and then there was such a calling for how does Atlas and Lily's story end? TikTok. That she had to write a second book. And I'm like, thank God she wrote a second book. Because that made so good. So good. All right, so it starts with us. Now that Ryle and Lily are separated, they have to learn to co-parent. At the end of the last book, Lily runs back into Atlas and they start talking again. In It Starts With Us, we read the story from Lily and Atlas's point of view through their new relationship and how to navigate everything that comes with it. In the beginning, they are so happy. It's a miracle they even see each other. And since Ryle still views Atlas as the reason for his marriage with Lily failing, not where he should be with his anger. Wait, I missed something. Oh, they are both they ever see each other. Because, of course, now Atlas has 2 restaurants. Yeah. He has 2 of them. It's a miracle they even see each other. So, because Ryle still views Atlas as the reason for his marriage with Lily failing, yes, he still blames that. Lily wants to keep it quiet, not that anything is official yet anyways. We also see that Ryle is still not where he should be with his anger. We see that he still holds out hope that Lily will take him back. I am so thankful throughout this book for Alyssa and Marshall because even though Alyssa is Ryle's sister and Marshall his best friend, they remain steadfast and strong in their belief that Lily made the right choice to leave Ryle, and they constantly reassure her that she is doing the right thing. You can't ask for a better outcome than that, and obviously that is not always the case in real life, only in storybooks, sadly. I mean, I hope that's more the case, but I don't actually know. All right, let's see. Lily is also way too flexible with Ryle, even though his schedule is crazy. He has a key to Lily's new apartment because sometimes he likes to put Emmy, their lovely, cute little daughter, down to sleep. I get that, but that doesn't mean you should have a key. And we can see Ryle's jealousy simmering when he realizes that Lily is dating again, and it just so happens to be Atlas. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he wouldn't have been happy with anyone, but Atlas was the hard, abso-fucking-lutely not. Yeah. So Lily finally puts her foot down with the help of Atlas to request her key back and get some ground rules for Ryle. She also finally gets a lawyer involved in their custody agreement and documents the abuse that she still seems to be receiving because he doesn't like her new boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Ryle eventually approaches Atlas, but Atlas refuses to engage in the chaos that Ryle seems to bring with him and is able to talk him down and almost come to some sort of understanding. Not perfect, but an understanding. I gotta give Atlas a lot of credit. He seems to be just so level-headed in throughout this entire book where he's just no, I'm not gonna do that. No, not doing it.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful. Meanwhile, as he is trying to deal with Ryle being a douche, he has his restaurants being vandalized and broken into. He is trying to find the perpetrator but doesn't want to report it to the police because it might be a hungry kid, and we know he knows all about that. Yeah. Turns out his mother comes back into his life and dumps the news on him that he has a brother, and this is the kid that has been vandalizing his restaurants. The mother has spun it in such a way that Atlas looks like the bad guy because he left when he found out his mom was pregnant. Which, of course, is not true, because Atlas was kicked out of the house. Now, Atlas is trying to be a big brother / parent to his 12-year-old brother while also fighting his mom for custody because she is being difficult just to be difficult.
Yeah.
God knows I know people like that. His brother Josh doesn't want to go back with their mom and wants to find his dad, who just walked out on them. By the end, Atlas helps Josh find his dad, but Josh ends up not going with his dad and stays with Atlas by choice. Lily and Emmy move in with Atlas and Josh and become a cute little happy family. And how Lily and Ryle had naked truths, Lily and Atlas write each other letters that are true and from the heart. On their first date, Lily lets Atlas read her journals that are all about him. So he decides to write to her as well. They grow close fast, but don't rush into things. They set limits and listen to what the other needs. Atlas is quite literally the perfect book boyfriend who ends up marrying Lily and being a great parent to Emmy and Josh.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's also not forget that in the first book, Lily took solace. Like, she was able to find a landing pad at Atlas's house, met his friends, and then in the second book, the son of one of the friends has such a major role. Like, I loved him.
This kid's so funny. He's like 12 years old, already wants to be a therapist, and this is now Atlas's quote-unquote therapist.
Yes!
So funny.
But I also loved that it was normalizing a character who's, I'm assuming he's gay.
We kind of get to that point by the end where he's like, I have a crush on someone, and it so happens to be a guy. It's like it takes a little force to get that out of it there. But even, I mean, and I was surprised even Josh, I think Josh knew about it and was like,
I don't care.
Okay.
I loved it.
It was wonderful. And Josh and the kid are best friends. And I was like, yep, done.
Oh, so
You're
good.
all meant to be together.
Yeah. The romance in this book.
It's so cute. It makes me want to yak.
I'm talking about the sex.
That too. I'm talking about the letter writing. I love the letter writing. I'm such a hopeless romantic in that sense.
No, I thought that was amazing, especially with Atlas's vows. But the first 2 paragraphs of chapter 29 had me saying, hello.
Yeah.
Was there anything that really stood out to you?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
And then thoughts on Marshall and Alyssa's involvement in Lily and Atlas's wedding.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, so
It's been so long since I've read that book. I can't remember, so that's why I write all this stuff down.
Yeah. So Lily is getting ready.
Yep.
And then, I mean, granted, Alyssa, like...
God, I love Alyssa and Marshall. They're so wonderful.
So good. It wasn't clear where Alyssa was. I'm trying to remember what her role... Like, it was clear that she was there, because obviously wherever Marshall is, Alyssa's there.
Right.
But it was... Marshall was a groomsman.
Yep.
And I was like... Oh, so good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, overall, these books were an amazing quick read, but it also opened up the conversation as far as, like, what I've read with, like, what abuse can look like and how people handle that. And granted, I think that Lily and Marshall were the best, not Lily, Alyssa and Marshall were the best mediators in this situation. Yeah. And Lily holding her ground, knowing our history, and saying, fuck you, Ryle. Like, we're going to co-parent, but there's no chance. I'm done. Yeah,
seriously. Like, here's to putting your foot down.
Yeah.
Here is to putting your foot down.
Jeez. And then now we're officially ready for when the movie comes out. So excited. So excited.
I know. So it's excited. Like, now I want to compare.
I know.
And the fact it's... Blake Lively is playing Lily Bloom.
Oh.
I'm like, thank Jesus. I love her.
Yeah.
Like, she's hardcore girl crush. Absolutely 100% like hardcore girl crush for me. Ever since it was...
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I also watched, what was the really preppy one with all the high-end society?
Oh, Gossip Girl.
Thank you. That one, I also loved that one. That was great. Oh,
yes.
And the fact that she's got such a personality and she's married to...
Ryan Reynolds.
Fucking Deadpool. I'm like, that's awesome.
Have you seen their interactions on Instagram?
They're hilarious. So freaking funny. It's wonderful.
It's so good.
Oh my gosh. So she's just wonderful. She's like, just, why is she a perfect human?
And then that's kind of like my favorite thing is when people are active on Instagram, you can see their true selves in a little bit.
Yeah.
She's just as quirky as Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
But yeah, the movie is coming out August 9th, I think, right? It's definitely in August. I just Googled it. Ends with us. Movie!
Not
the book. Movie. Yes, August 9th. It's coming out. Oh, you can watch it on Amazon Prime.
I have Prime!
So excited.
I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna be so good.
Well, good selections, Alexa.
Those were
so good.
Those were good. I'm happy with those.
Yeah. All right, you ready to turn the page and go dark?
Mm-hmm. Do you need to refill your drink before we go dark?
Let me read my words. Hi,
Jen.
Let me... I might need a big one for this.
It's fair. I basically made 2 in the whole thing, so you're fine.
Okay. I got my purple drink, got the purple shirt.
Here we go.
Okay. I'm technically covering 1.5 cases today.
1.5 cases.
So...
I hope you're going to explain.
Yes, 100%. So... I do want to do a blanket statement, though.
Holy shit, how many pages do you have there?
Too many. So here's the thing. I really hope listeners are, like, in the car or cleaning, because this is very long. I did not anticipate this to be long.
I understand.
I did all of my research, or most of it, and then you know how I like to go back just to verify facts and make sure I got everything?
Mm-hmm.
I found additional information that had it from, like, a reasonable size to, oh shit, this changes everything.
I mean, you texted me, 2 weeks, like last week or something, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, and said, we need to change the podcasting date and anticipate it being long. And I'm like, I think that was when I was down in North Carolina with my family, and I was like, okay, fine, don't care.
It was not on purpose.
I know. I know.
So I'm gonna do my first case, and then I'm gonna give another like disclaimer at the top of the second case.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with an international shallow dive.
Oh,
I'm taking the term of shallow dive from one of my favorite podcasts, Wine and Crime.
Done. Like it.
So I initially wanted to feature an international case to show that domestic violence and abuse is a global problem. Mm-hmm. But my brain wasn't braining last month. Hi COVID, severe allergies.
Oh no.
So I forgot that there was an entire series on this based in the UK.
An entire series?
Yeah, like, it was, oh shit, I don't remember what it was even called, but it was like, as I was finishing up these notes, I was like, Anna, there's an entire Netflix series where, like, domestic abuse is a massive thing, like, specifically in Ireland. And I was like, why am I not thinking? I don't know.
Oh.
But I already put hours into this, so I was like, fuck it.
Okay. Done.
With the case I did find, there wasn't much information available, but what I could find was mainly in Arabic and French, and I'm not fluent in either of them, so if any of the listeners know French or Arabic, have at it.
I was going to say, Arabic is not even, I'm not going to say normal words, they are not English character words.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Characters, that's
so good luck with that.
So let's transport our brains quickly to Tunisia.
Okay.
Where in the world is that, you may ask? And for
it's Africa, isn't it?
Yes.
Done!
Yes!
Yes!
Yes, it is! So the Republic of Tunisia is in the northernmost part of the country, well, continent, in Africa. I consider it to be very close to Sicily, so, like, which is the island off the toe of the boot of Italy. So it's very, very close to Italy.
Right.
Refka Cherni was a 26-year-old mother to a son in May of 2021. She was an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous woman who was unfortunately married to a monster. None of the sources I found listed his name, which I guess is a good thing because Refka's name is out there as a symbol for how the system needs to do better.
Agreed.
However, I did learn that Refka's husband was a part of the security forces of the National Guard. So, like, you think of a domestic abuser,
Oh.
And then he kind of brings it to a whole other level as far as, like, his level of violence and what his potential can be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long they were married for or how long the abuse had been going on, but on May 7th, 2 days before Refka's murder, she'd gone to the special police unit in charge of violence against women to file a complaint. However, this is the part that'd be like, what the fuck? She'd found that the office was closed because her visit was, quote, outside of regular working hours.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
She then went to a regular police office to file her complaint. And according to Karima Brini, the president of the Women and Citizens Association, which is an organization fighting violence against women in northwest Tunisia, Refka told Karima that the police took her testimony and referred her for a forensic examination. Which I'm like, okay. Pathetically, the forensic doctor only prescribed her, ready for this, 20 days of rest and then sent her home.
Of course. Of course, because that's exactly what I would do as a doctor. Yep, 20 days of rest. You're good. Welcome to the third world countries, though.
Nothing of actual value in a case like this. Like, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Karima had come into play because Refka was seeking a consult with her to see what could be done, and Karima was like, okay, I need to help her.
Mm-hmm.
After Refka had gone to the forensic doctor, the police brought in Refka's husband.
Mm-hmm.
Refka, at that point, was in the police station when her husband came through, and he threatened her by saying, if you don't give up the complaint, I will slaughter you.
Oh, wonderful.
Despite all of this, the douchebag was not arrested.
Of course not.
In a move I would have done, Refka refused to go back home and went to her parents' house. And I don't know what the status was of their son at this point. I don't know. Karima then advised Refka to file a complaint at the special unit the following day. Unfortunately, that would never happen. As of May 8th, Karima tried calling Refka, but there was no response. In a panic, Karima called an officer that was part of the special unit, and they assured Karima that they'd taken care of the case. Karima did get a return call from this officer. From the officer, and they told her that they had investigated the case and had transferred the complaint to the prosecutor's office. So that's good.
Okay.
However, the prosecutor didn't think the situation warranted an arrest or any other protection order. On May 9th, Karima found out that Refka had been shot with live ammunition and had been taken to the hospital where she would later pass away.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, so I don't know if this happened on the 8th or 9th, but it did happen. Nuts. According to a spokesperson of the El Kef First Instance Court, do I know what that means? No. But did I look into it? Tried to. I don't understand politics in this part of the world. But they declared that the husband was set free because Refka had decided to drop the complaint that she initially wanted to bring forth. She wanted to reconcile with her husband in order to, quote, protect the family and her child. Which you see this time after time. And it's
all the time.
It's like, I get it, but he's your abuser. But no, Refka had been shot 5 times with her husband's police-issued weapon. It wasn't until after Refka had been transported to the hospital that security patrol had been dispatched to the scene and the husband was arrested. Too fucking late. And then in March of this year, so 2024, the criminal chamber of the Kef Court of First Instance revealed that the husband had been condemned to 30 years in prison. However, the court later decided to appeal the initial judgment and referred the case to the Kef Court of Appeal, which then sentenced him to 40 years in prison. So it's
good choice.
Something. Absolutely. And I'm nowhere near close to being an expert of Tunisia, nor of its judicial system, but I wanted to bring up some points about domestic violence and abuse from a country other than the U.S. There was a law that was put into place, Law 58, and it was put into place in 2017. And it aims to combat violence against women. However, from what the statistics are showing, it's not being implemented. From my understanding, Law 58 involves the concept of developing patterns in violence in order to detect domestic violence situations. In this case, police officers who were in charge of the complaint conducted a mediation between Refka and her husband, but this is forbidden under that law.
Mediation.
Yes, sorry, mediation. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then to quote Intifada, which I thought it was like a fun name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it means something in Arabic. I just don't speak Arabic.
That's fair. I understand.
It's a podcast aimed at providing a platform for relatives of femicide victims and survivors of domestic violence and hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And according to their podcast, according to the Ministry of the Interior, between January and June of 2021, 10,823 women were subjected to physical violence. 6,079 to verbal violence, 725 to sexual violence, and 1,167 to financial. However, as many victims do not dare file an official complaint, these figures can't really come close to reflecting reality.
Right.
Another bit of information I learned is that according to the National Observatory for Combating Violence Against Women, and this is a quote, so some of it's kind of wonky, but I'm quoting, the number of complaints of all types of violence has increased in recent years, which, as we know, like with COVID and shelter in place, a lot of that stuff did increase. From January to October 2021, the Ministry of Family, Women, Children, and Seniors, or MFFES, they recorded 1,225 calls reporting domestic violence against women on its free hotline, accounting for a quarter of all of its calls. Out of these 25% of the calls, 75.5% concerned domestic violence.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So my sources for finding this information, because obviously, like, I couldn't go deep, but it's BBC, a Tunisia newspaper, News Tunisia, I couldn't fully. Amnesty.org, Intifada.com, and then 5 Pillars UK. So I just, like, I wanted to cover it, but obviously not a lot of information.
So I have a question for you.
Yep.
And I think as American women,
yep,
I almost feel like we take for credit sometimes that we have as much freedom as we do. Mm-hmm. Whereas I know there are a lot of women in the Middle East that do not have the same rights that we do, and it is totally, is Tunisia kind of that same is it that same kind of cultural,
from my understanding,
do you know what I'm talking about?
So from my understanding and my pure assumption, not fact, just assumption, yes.
Okay. Because
the only pictures I could find of Refka, she has a headpiece on.
A hijab.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, So I do agree, as American women who are in very positive, safe relationships, yes, I do think that sometimes we forget how many resources we have. Obviously, our system is far from perfect.
It is not perfect.
But at least we know that, like, if we go into law enforcement,
someone's going to go and do something.
Yes. And, like, if we seek help and people are doing their jobs right, there's going to be records of it. And that's what I'm going to go in for my next case.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes, I do think that sometimes we need the reminder of, like, unfortunately, things can be even worse than what we have.
Yeah. I gotta give her a lot of credit, though, that she would go and she went to someone in law enforcement and said, and reported this.
Yeah.
Because that's a big step.
Absolutely.
As well. So I gotta give her a lot of credit there.
And she was gorgeous. I was like, holy shit.
Woof.
Yeah. The husband did not deserve her.
No, probably not. Definitely not, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's a little bit more closer to home.
Okay.
But I also, again, blanket statement, I don't view domestic violence and abuse to be black and white. I view it as a he said, she said, they said. And unless there's solid proof, formal or not, it's really hard to figure out fact from fiction. I recognize that gathering solid proof isn't always the easiest thing to do, and gathering evidence with full context can go either way. But I do want to recognize that the abuse of any kind can go both ways, regardless of gender or how you identify. And I do want to bring up a very short story. You know this very, very well, unfortunately. A family member of mine was in a very toxic relationship. And I had taken in their partner more of like as a friend, because I was like, hey, like, I can talk to this person. I can relate to them. It's great. All while I'm planning my wedding. And one day, my now husband was away on his bachelor trip, and the family member was with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a message from the partner saying, "Are you busy right now?" And I show them a picture of lanterns that I'm cleaning. And they're like, "I could really use company right now." And you know me, I'm like, if someone needs help, I'm grabbing a bottle of wine if I know that person drinks,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be there to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed 2 bottles of wine, I headed over to their house, and I listened to them sob for hours.
Mm-hmm.
And my mistake was, I was getting manipulated,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's okay, like, this family member of mine loves you, like, it'll be okay. And they're like, I'm not sure. And this person was invited to my bachelorette.
Yep.
And they got drunk, completely trashed it. And I realized in that time, in a matter of a few months, actually, no, I think this was like 6 months of chaos where they were manipulating my family member, manipulating me, creating sob stories, making up shit like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
when I don't know if they really were.
Yeah, right?
And it's just like, it can come from both directions, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't even know. Because I did have a very transparent conversation with my family member, and I was like, look, like, this is what I'm being told, but I am strictly a, like, see something, say something, and that's what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm stepping out of it, because this is, I have too much shit going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So needless to say, it was very messy, but they did end up separating, and
Yeah,
things
that was a hot mess.
It was so
Holy
fucking bad.
Smokes.
Excuse me. And then I've also been in an emotionally abusive relationship where, I got manipulated. But I think what was really important is, as a woman, I was approached many times by my mom saying, behavior from this, like, from your partner is not acceptable. It's not okay. So I, like, knew that in the back of my brain, but I didn't know how to break up with him.
Right.
But the amount of manipulation I went through was, like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say, like, it's not black and white. It's very difficult. So anyway.
It is not.
This is the story of how a couple, the male partner, a beloved children's gymnast coach, and the female partner, a preschool teacher / stay-at-home mom, appeared to have it all. But behind closed doors, things were not how they appeared.
Interesting.
This story takes place in Poughkeepsie, New York.
I know that place. I have family that lives there.
Yeah. Our home state, but very different from where we are. It's September 28th, 2017, and it's 2:16 in the morning. A car is stopped at a traffic light, and it attracts the attention of a cop, who then pulls in behind it. I believe, if I remember correctly, like, that car, the cop was going to a completely other call, but this was kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
When the light turns green, the car stays in place.
Mm-hmm.
The officer blows their horn to get the driver's attention, but rather than pressing on the gas, the driver steps out in sock feet, visibly upset.
Mm-hmm.
In front of officers, the driver tells a tale about how their partner took out a gun and a shot went off. The driver was 28-year-old Nikki Addimando, and her partner was 29-year-old Christopher Grover.
Oh.
Do you know this case?
No.
Oh, girl. It's pretty massive. So what I'm finding for myself in investigating these cases is I've taken a lot of information via, like, an episode of something. So in this case, I watched a 2020 episode. And so I kind of, like, base it off of that, and then obviously get other articles.
Mm-hmm.
So those articles consisted of stuff from the Poughkeepsie Journal, Times Union, CBS News, and the New Yorker.
Right.
But the New Yorker deserves a massive shout out. The article is called "When Can a Woman Who Kills Her Abuser Claim Self-Defense?" Yeah, and it's by Rachel Louise Snyder, and the article is dated December 20th, 2019. And I just want to do a major shout out because Rachel did a phenomenal job analyzing court transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's what I had to make sure. Like, where is she getting information from?
Right.
Oh, it's court transcripts? Okay, this is reliable.
Okay.
And providing readers with the most informative, behind closed doors information that needed to be known. So a lot of my initial information came from 2020. A lot of the supplemental stuff that just expanded this case massively was from the New Yorker. Okay. And then obviously verifying information from the local papers. But a quick blanket statement. I know I'm doing a lot of these. The horrifying and disturbing abuse described in this case was alleged to have happened according to court documents and content covered in my sources. Like, this is going to be bad.
Okay.
I didn't want to litter the word allegedly over and over and over again. Can't do it. But I also absolutely hate the abuse that I'm about to cover. But I'm hoping that if someone out there who is listening is experiencing something similar, they know that this is not okay and they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a few points where I started crying because I was like, no one deserves this.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine how someone experiencing this abuse right now. Like, I can't imagine it.
Right.
As humiliating as these acts are, they're not alone, and I hope they can find the power within them to seek help to get away from their abuser. No one deserves the treatment that Nikki went through. Let's start at the beginning of Nikki and Chris's relationship in 2008.
Super.
They met as employees at a children's gymnastics gym called Mr. Todd's, which from what I can tell was one of the most supportive and positive environments that a gym could have based on their Facebook page. I did learn in May of 2023, the owners announced that after 24 years, they're stepping down, and now the gym is called Peak Gymnastics.
Okay.
Nikki was seen as introverted and shy, but also kind, sweet, and gentle. She was also compassionate and motherly with a clear passion for kids. Hi, Jen. Hello. While balancing work, she'd been pursuing her degree in early childhood education. Chris was a goofball. There's a well-known picture of him dancing in a tutu at the gym. It's great.
Love it.
He was also energetic and loved by his students. In addition to being a gymnastics coach, he was studying cinematography and had a black belt in Taekwondo. And like a lot of men out there, balanced it all with his love of video games.
Hi, my husband doesn't like video
I
games.
know.
I am so thankful for that.
I was thinking, I'm like, you don't have to deal with that problem. My husband, on the other hand, From the very beginning, Nikki was honest in telling Chris that she didn't want to have sex right away. She had a history of trauma, and with any relationship she was in, she had to take things slow.
Mm-hmm.
As a toddler in 1993, Nikki was known for her large brown eyes and large sense of curiosity. However, all of that changed at the age of 5 when Nikki was sexually assaulted by an employee of her mother's.
No, thank you.
She didn't want to report it because she didn't feel like she would be believed, and she thought that if she reported it, her mom would get into trouble.
I hate people.
Yeah. She became fearful, broken, and sad and hid the abuse for years. Fortunately, Chris said he was okay with taking it slow, and after a year of dating, they did become sexually active, which is like, okay, cool.
Cool. Great.
However, Nikki quickly found that once he started going, he didn't exactly stop when she said stop.
Oh.
Yep.
Super.
Yeah. 3 years into the relationship, in 2011, Nikki left Mr. Todd's to work at a nursery school, but they remained together. They're still a couple. And then the timeline does get a little fuzzy for me at this point, so just bear with me. Chris was the head coach at this time, and it seemed like they were a match made in heaven as they both loved and were loved by their students, had strong family values, and both of their families were well rooted in the community. So, like, with that family member in Poughkeepsie that you have, I'm sure they know all about this.
Oh, God.
And probably know family members.
I'd be intrigued now to ask my many family members that I actually have down there. So
Yeah.
we shall see.
This is obviously when red flags started waving and people in the community started to notice. Around town and at the gym, Nikki would be seen with bruises on her arms and neck, and one concerned parent of a student even brought Nikki into the police. Note, community members noticed the bruising, but had no idea how to approach it or knew what to do about it. Like,
That's rough.
yeah. I mean, I can see, like, if you know of someone in your community and you see it and you're like, I don't know this person very well, we don't have a strong relationship, I can see how that'd be difficult to approach them. But it's like, how do you handle that? I don't know.
Right.
As you may expect, Nikki was hesitant about talking to law enforcement. During her interview with police, officers did their best to reassure her that they wanted to find the person who abused her and they would aggressively hunt them down so the abuse would stop.
Okay.
However, she voiced that she doubted it ever would.
Oh.
Another parent who happened to be a police officer also noticed the bruising, and when he asked her about them, she provided vague responses. He went as far as inviting her to move in with his family, and there was one claim where it was like they were having an affair, but again, that's a claim I can't...
It wasn't founded.
Yeah, I can't declare that fact, and I don't want to ruin someone's reputation.
That's fair.
A few months after this interview, in 2012, Nikki found she was pregnant with their son, Ben. Like many women in this situation, she became hopeful about the future and that Chris would change. Arguably, things did get better during her pregnancy as the two moved into an apartment together and with Chris's video skills, created YouTube content consisting of everyday activities such as painting the walls and gardening. Things look great on the outside, but they were not 100% okay.
That's fair.
So, Nikki started seeing a licensed clinical social worker for counseling sessions during her pregnancy and slowly worked up the courage to open up about her childhood sexual abuse. Yay, Nikki!
Hallelujah, good for you, girl.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that it's a licensed therapist, like, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
When Ben was born, the counseling session stopped, which I can understand that. You have a newborn, like, you're really busy. So
super busy, yeah, absolutely. I'd be curious to see if she went through any postpartum nonsense, because goodness knows that'll hit you real hard.
Yeah. And she left her job in the nursery school, understandable, or the preschool.
Mm-hmm.
About 6 weeks after Ben was born, the violence started again.
No.
According to court testimony, there was a case where Chris made a sexual advance one day, and when Nikki declined, he slammed her face into the doorframe of Ben's room and sexually assaulted her.
No, thank you. No fucking thank you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, we're gonna... Drinking is a little necessary to get through this shit.
Hi, Jen.
Fortunately, Nikki made her way to victim services, where she started seeing a therapist again, but she was still defending Chris by saying she hoped he'd grow out of the abuse. She continued to voice her struggle that no one would believe her claims because everyone loved Chris. And, like, one random thought that comes to mind is, like, I do want to say, while I watched the 2020 episode on Hulu, I left that video, like, that show thinking, like, I'm not too sure, knowing, like, my history of, like, seeing that family member of mine getting abused. So I was like, it could go both ways. Yeah. And that the New Yorker article had me like, fuck no, this is real. Yeah. In 2014, the family had since moved to another apartment, and Nikki was pregnant with her daughter, Faye.
Oh, no.
Unlike her pregnancy with Ben, this one was a nightmare.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, this is bad. One day while she was in the kitchen, she'd shrugged off a kiss from Chris. Upon denying this, he bit her on the shoulder and slammed her face into the counter twice before sexually assaulting her. So again, like, it's just gonna get, it's worse.
Oh, it's only getting uglier. Yeah. No.
And, like, I want to normalize it to an extent as far as, like, I'm sure many women around the world are experiencing stuff like this.
Oh, it's awful.
And it's not okay.
It's awful.
Yeah. 2 days later, she was still experiencing pain in her jaw and couldn't chew. This is when she called family services and was connected to a forensic nurse. This forensic nurse knew what the fuck they were doing.
Hallelujah, we love people like that. Thank God.
During this visit, it was noted that Nikki spoke in barely audible whispers and believed that if she filed a report with the police, Chris would retaliate by taking Ben away from her. As soon as 2 days after this forensic exam, she was making food for Ben, and Chris commented that she better be making enough for him. When she sarcastically replied with, "Yes, sir,"
I'm gonna grab my drink.
Yep. He forced her to the floor. Like, this is not okay. He forced her to the floor, put a metal spoon into the gas flame on the stove, and assaulted her with it.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. All of this trauma was photographed in another exam, which included a bite mark on her shoulder, burns to her breasts, thighs, and genitalia. Yeah, like, it's not okay.
No.
This time, Nikki was nervous, whispering. She had poor eye contact and was shaking. But she still refused to file a police report. Yeah, like, I'm crying because it's just like, no one deserves this treatment.
That's so frustrating. Yeah. No.
Yeah. According to Nikki, after Faye was born in February of 2015, Chris became fixated on porn. Takes the focus off of her, right?
Yes, in theory.
Nope.
No, of course not. He's getting new ideas.
Yep. Apparently, he began to construct homemade sex toys out of PVC piping.
No.
Yeah. So out of PVC piping, cement glue, and athletic tape. And then
cement. No.
Yeah. And, like, this is all, like, court testimony. Like, none of the other sources said this, but, like, court testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And then he began inserting them into her genitals.
Nope.
So take it as you wish. I didn't want to get into detail with that.
No.
He'd also tie her up, fashioned a rubber ball into a gag, and sexually assaulted her with a gun. He also used the belt from her bathrobe to strangle her until she almost passed out. During the forensic examination, a domestic violence risk assessment was done, and Nikki was placed into the highest risk category for homicide. The criteria for this include sexual assault, abuse while pregnant, gun ownership, and strangulation. So, like, it got recorded.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank God, but she is still not filing a report.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I do want to, like, take a step back for a minute. Despite all this abuse, Nikki was a devoted mother to her children. She had found a mom's group to hang out with and would attend music classes with them and all the children. One of her mom friends said that while she would bring her kids to get pizza, Nikki was getting her kids smoothie bowls.
Love it. Good choice.
Nikki was also crafty, and while she was a stay-at-home mom, she started making little baby booties. Now, I'm not talking like the booties you'd see in Marshall's or something.
Mm-hmm.
These were bougie booties. Like,
ooh,
these were really, really nice.
Okay.
She was also a photographer and had her own little studio, so she was just creative. All right. In 2015, Chris's abuse expanded. Yeah. While they were having sex, Nikki noticed a red blinking light. Chris was recording them.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. On Pornhub,
yucky.
Using the name Grover Respect, like GROVERESPECT or GROVERRESPECT. I saw it listed both ways. He uploaded videos and photos of her without her consent, with titles like Bound and Pound and Break a Bitch.
No, thank you.
And according to Nikki, he saved the videos on external hard drives. Upon the discovery of the camera and memory card, she went to the social worker's office and played some of the video for them. The entire time she kept asking, "What did I do wrong?" And "Did I not say no enough?" Girl, you did nothing wrong.
Nope, you did not do anything wrong. This is not on you. This is on him. Because apparently he is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Sexual sadist.
Yep. Fortunately, advocates from Family Services contacted the Dutchess County Prosecutor's Office about any options available based on the evidence gathered. They were told that unless Nikki reported the abuse, there was not much they could do. The therapist was able to meet with the detective to report the Pornhub images with Nikki's permission. Nikki had then been provided with a deposition form, and she filled it out with a statement of everything that had been happening, but she couldn't actually bring herself to sign the document.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So the detective that she'd been working with did send out an email to the department making it clear that Nikki was the victim and Chris was the abuser. In the spring of 2017, Nikki had a meeting with a midwife, and I'm assuming that this was an OBGYN visit.
Okay.
She'd been telling her about how worried she was of losing custody of her children and that Chris would allege that her injuries were self-inflicted. During one of her visits, the midwife was unable to do a pelvic exam because Nikki's insides were on the outside due to extreme swelling in the entire genital area.
I hate this motherfucker. I hope he dies in hell.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Oh! Yeah. I hope he burns forever in the pits of despair.
Yeah. By the fall of that year, things were heating up big time. A parent of a gymnast from one of the students made an anonymous call because they were concerned about Nikki. They learned about her injuries and then had witnessed Chris losing his temper with his students. And that for me was like, okay, like, this
Yep.
court testimony is starting to add up. For sure. Even more so. The morning following his report, CPS went to their apartment and conducted separate interviews. What shouldn't be a shock at this point is that Nikki lied during hers, and when the visit ended, Chris demanded she call family and friends to let them know the abuse was not present in the household before he left for work. When he arrived at work, he spoke to his bosses and downplayed the entire thing. He told them he'd granted CPS the ability to take his phone and laptop because he had nothing to hide. When Nikki called the gym to tell the owners about the whole no abuse thing, she made a point to say how she bruises easily. Early the next morning is when a cop would find Nikki in her car at the traffic light with her children asleep in the backseat. While talking to the police, Nikki was able to call a friend. Fortunately, that friend answered and sat in their vehicle watching what was going on.
This is at 2 a.m.
Yes. Having no idea what they're seeing. They're just like, my friend called me, what the fuck is happening? But of course she couldn't get close, like she was off to the side. Caught on the dash cam, an ambulance drove by the traffic light with its lights on, but then when it came back through, the lights were off. So that's the universal signal of, like, someone's dead.
Yep.
That's when Nikki breaks down with the realization that Chris is dead.
Good.
Nikki and her children are loaded up into a police car. Her car gets towed, and then everyone, including the friend, go to the police department down the street. In the interrogation room, after she'd been Mirandized, Nikki began to talk, but things didn't seem quite right to the detectives. She told them about the visit from CPS and how Chris made it seem like one big joke. That night, they'd both showered separately before Chris sexually assaulted her on the couch.
No, thank you.
This time, though, it wasn't rough. It was more gentle as to convey I'm sorry. She then waited until he fell asleep, checked in on the kids since they both had a fever earlier that day, and then went back to the couch and lay down with Chris again. Upon laying down, he pulled out a loaded gun.
No.
She jumped up and kneed him.
No.
And then he turned over and commented that she didn't have it in her to hurt him.
Bitch, try her.
He commented, he commented that he'd kill her before he would kill himself, leaving the kids with no one. That's when she pulled the trigger and shot him. Afterwards, she turned his head, checked his pulse, and then headed to the shower. That's when she got her kids and fled. Here's where the problem lies. Her story and the evidence didn't match up.
No.
All while Nikki is at the light, and then at the police department, officers were processing the scene. They arrived at her apartment building to find the door unlocked. They walked in and saw Chris laying on his back on the couch. It was clear he'd received one fatal gunshot to the left side of his head. The gun was on the floor, still loaded with at least one bullet. Officers noticed that a rug had been pushed out of the way, a camera on the floor, and the shower was running. What was really strange was that a broken laptop was in the shower. Officers were also canvassing the apartment building and learning that none of the neighbors heard or saw anything.
That's abnormal.
Yeah. Nikki's story so far, plus this, wasn't looking good. What also didn't make sense to them was the fact that Chris was an athlete and in shape. So it was like, he would have put up a struggle.
A little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a fight.
Yeah. And then my theory on this is that Nikki was trying to get rid of the evidence in the computer, but there's still holes in that. So basically, like, through everything that I read, everything that I watched, it was like there was no explanation for the laptop. None.
Interesting.
So let's transition over to the processing of cell phones. It wasn't clear if these were the results of the CPS investigation or if it was all turned over to detectives, but either way, the evidence was found for both the prosecution and the evidence. The defense. Hello. In the 5 weeks before the murder, Nikki had sent a text to a friend saying, like, ... So, like, this was only part of the text. I haven't figured out how to kill him without being caught, so I'm still here.
Interesting.
She'd also sent messages to Chris that were degrading and accusing him of having a mental disorder.
Interesting.
On Chris's phone, and I'm assuming this was from right before the murder, like the CPS visit, there were searches such as, quote, shoot a woman in the head in sleep while you know she was asleep forensic. And it's spelled Forenzik. Okay. Another one was, where do you have to get shot in the head to die instantly?
Interesting.
Will they know she was asleep when shot? Part of the brain to shoot in a suicide? Yeah.
Interesting.
Given all this information, law enforcement doesn't see this evidence as someone who is defending their life. When they tell her that, she pivots her story, raising the issue of self-defense and inserting legal defenses.
Mm-hmm.
This is appearing more and more to investigators to be a murder. Keep in mind, detectives most likely don't know about any of the abuse that's happened so far because it was never reported. So I think they know maybe like some of it, but not totally.
Oh.
The theory behind this murder was Nikki put the barrel of the gun up to Chris's skull when he was asleep before pulling the trigger. This was backed up by the medical examiner since the shot was considered a contact wound. The location of the blow was consistent with Nikki's story, but the position was not. There was also no sign of a knee being taken to the groin. Upon examining the shower where the laptop was found, there was blood found on the curtain. On top of all this, Nikki tampered with evidence at the scene. Where was the shell casing?
Fuck.
She had admitted to picking it up, but not of what happened to it. To top it off, Nikki didn't call 911 after the murder. She'd called a friend.
Damn it. What?
I
need to hear the rest of this.
Yeah.
Because I'm confused now.
Yeah.
I'm very confused now.
Yeah. And this is why, like, watching 2020, I was like, what do I believe?
What do I believe? Seriously. Like, keep going.
Needless to say, after her interview with police, Nikki was arrested for second-degree murder, first and second-degree manslaughter, and second-degree criminal possession of a weapon. She was looking at 25 years to life in prison. In the aftermath of the murder, as to be expected, family and friends of Chris spoke up. They were thrilled to hear that Nikki was behind bars and couldn't believe that Chris had done any wrongdoing. He was, after all, a normal guy who didn't get mad or raised his voice. An ex for Chris's went on record saying she couldn't believe him to be violent whatsoever. He was not abusive at all during their relationship. Meanwhile, for Nikki, she was understandably freaking the fuck out.
Yep, I would too.
Fortunately, her sister had taken custody of the kids. Well, she had taken the kids in and filed for custody.
Mm-hmm.
With Poughkeepsie having a small town feel, everyone was divided.
Mm-hmm.
It was Team Nikki versus Team Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also the time when community members came out of the woodwork, finally talking about the physical abuse signs that they'd seen but said nothing about. Again, it's like how to handle it is not easy.
No.
Before we begin the trial portion of the story, I do want to point out an important detail. Because Family Services had approached the Dutchess County Prosecutor's Office before the murder, this particular office recused themselves from the trial.
Okay.
The Putnam County District Attorney's Office started handling it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, that's a good call for sure.
Uh-huh.
At a hearing, Chris's supporters wore black shirts with red print saying "Justice for Chris," while Nikki's supporters wore purple. Obviously, what we're wearing today, the color representing domestic violence. So imagine a courtroom where half of it's black and red and half of it is purple.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah. Nikki's supporters were so adamant that she shouldn't be behind bars that they rallied and raised $600,000 for her bail.
That's impressive.
For Nikki and her children, it was the perfect timing because she would be home for Christmas.
Okay.
If
this is all true, I will say this. If this is all true, that'd be a great little happy ending.
Yeah. A year and a half after Chris's death, on March 18th, 2019, the trial began. The prosecution's goal was to prove that Nikki was a master manipulator and that she had made a cold decision to murder her boyfriend. They made it a point to show Chris in the infamous picture of him in a tutu and portrayed him as a fun, loving person.
Mm-hmm.
Due to this, he couldn't be an abuser.
Definitely not, obviously.
They tried to use the text previously mentioned to show that Nikki could be confrontational when she wanted to be. Additional arguments were that Nikki was self-injuring and that the content uploaded to Pornhub could have been uploaded by Nikki herself. However, her wounds didn't follow a pattern, and some were in places, like teeth marks on a shoulder, that couldn't be reached. You can't fake that shit.
You can't fake that. No.
Nikki's mental stability did come into question as she admitted to questioning confusion. Conflating memories of abuse. Like, she got very confused. She experienced in childhood, but she experienced from Chris. So she was mixing all of that up. She does
Trauma does that.
Yeah, exactly. She does have a history of head trauma and strangulation, but she has not been evaluated for traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
But note Memory lapses are common in victims of sexual assault and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
A comment that I read in the New Yorker article that had me shaking my head is this quote. Stuart Kirshner, a forensic psychologist who frequently serves as an expert witness for prosecutors, testified that the fact that Addimando gave different accounts at different times to different people cast doubt on her allegations. He said that Grover did not match the profile of an abuser because he did not appear to exhibit morbid jealousy and allowed Addimando to move with relative freedom, including visits to her therapist. If he's a batterer, Kirshner told the court, he's putting her on a really long leash. Kirshner also testified he didn't believe it was possible to state definitively that the Pornhub videos were not consensual, or at least partly consensual. Yeah, you're looking at me like, what the fuck? Yeah,
I got the as an quote unquote expert witness.
Yeah, terrible.
I really struggle with saying that this person is an expert witness if he's saying stuff like that, because I do not have a psychology degree. I know I teach tiny humans.
Yeah.
But trauma manifests in many ways. A lot of it is memory loss. Like my kiddo I mentioned earlier that wets himself. He has a trauma past. He still lives with the person who...
Oh.
Yeah, He still lives with the person who's going through all that. So he's got a lot of trauma going on. And...
Yeah.
God love this student. He's not a stellar student, though.
Yeah.
Ooh, I hate people.
Yeah. To go along with the whole Pornhub thing, evidence of the account was withheld because there was no actual evidence that Chris had started the account. However, the pictures were shown as a way to prove Nikki to be a master manipulator. Yeah. A good argument that a domestic violence advocate has stated is that quite often the one holding the gun is more afraid than the one who isn't, and that matters. In her mind, she didn't have a choice. So I'm like, okay, that's valid. The trial came down to a battle between self-inflicting of injuries and self-defense. Again, based on the 2020 episode, I had no idea where to start with the conclusion.
Right.
But based on the New Yorker article, that changed. Kind of makes a lot of sense of what reality is when the injuries ceased when Nikki was taken into custody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 weeks of testimony, the case went to the jury. When they came back with a verdict, they found her guilty of second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. For domestic violence advocates, this case represents just how wrong the judicial system is and how they're prosecuted. A criticism from an advocate was that during the trial, there was a large focus on the night of the murder, not of the abuse that happened beforehand.
That's frustrating.
Yes. A point that Nikki's best friend made was if Nikki was the one who died that night, this wouldn't have been a story.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I have to include that in my notes.
Uh-huh.
In April of 2019, Nikki had a moment of hope. Our creepy ex-governor, signed in the Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act. The act gives courts discretion in sentencing domestic survivors if the abuse was a significant factor in the action taken. For Nikki, this meant her sentence could be reduced to 5 years in prison. With this timing, Nikki's case would be the first case to be tested under this law.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, on May 4th, 2019, the court determined that she did not qualify under the new law. They were not convinced by Nikki's accusations of abuse, and she was sentenced to 19 years to life.
Seriously?
To rub in salt in the wound, the judge told Nikki that her choice was of a broken person. She had been provided with a ton of service, including support and opportunity to escape her alleged situation. And she chose murder. Unsurprisingly, her lawyers filed an appeal arguing that important evidence was never seen.
Mm-hmm.
Back at home in 2018, Ben and Faye began seeing a therapist. And this was also another point where I'm like, kids don't fucking lie.
Good choice.
I firmly believe that the children are a representation of the result of reality.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, during those meetings that they had with Nikki, it became apparent that both of them knew what was happening between Nikki and Chris. A major sign was that every time they went to see their mom, the first thing they did was check her body for bruises. It wasn't
poor babies.
Yeah. And it wasn't just checking what was visible with clothes on. They wanted to see what was underneath too.
Oh, poor babies. That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right for kids to be like, Mama, can I check your body? I can only imagine what those kids are actually saying, where it's like, sleeves up. Okay, lift the shirt, lift the shorts.
Yeah.
Touching, tenderness. Like, babies.
That was another part where I was just like, that's telling the reality of the situation.
Yeah, a little bit. Kids can't make that shit up.
No. As of the airing of the 2020 episode in February 2023, in the U.S., there's over 5 million children in this situation. And that's 5 million too many. In the aftermath of Nikki's verdict, a highly regarded attorney found out about this case and decided to take Nikki's case on. Pro bono.
Bless them.
I know, right?
Bless them.
In reviewing the documents, he was convinced that Nikki never should have been convicted and that major evidence was never allowed into the evidence. Again, the jury saw pictures of what was uploaded to Pornhub, but not of who created the account. This is what the attorney thought could have made a massive difference. The biggest question was Nikki justified in the level of violence against Chris? In April of 2021, the pro bono attorney was on a Zoom conference with the Supreme Court's Appellate Division. During that meeting, someone saw the domestic violence involved in this case, and they determined that Nikki should have been qualified under the Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act. Her sentence went from 19 years to life to 7.5 years.
Hallelujah.
However, her murder conviction was not overturned. In the aftermath of this, the ex that I previously mentioned took some time to reflect on her relationship with Chris. And this is where I'm like, oh. This was when she realized that Chris was indeed abusive, but in the emotional way. With her, specifically. And this is like, I'm so glad my bedroom's on the second floor. There was one instance, as she recalled, where she knew Chris was mad at her. And one day, when she was folding her laundry in her room, she looked up and Chris was staring at her through the window. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So she was like, he was creepy. Like, this was not a healthy relationship.
I'm glad you realize that now.
Yeah. There have been critics to Nikki's innocence, and then our current governor, Governor Hochul, held the key to be able to release Nikki before her 7.5-year term was up. The DA, and I'm pretty sure it was the Putnam County DA, wrote a letter to Hochul going against Nikki's freedom, saying that Nikki, quote, was not the victim of sexual or physical abuse by her boyfriend, Christopher Grover. To the contrary, she is a masterful manipulator who intentionally murdered Christopher Grover in his sleep.
Interesting.
So it was like, people were rallying hardcore.
I was about to say, we got both sides of the rally. That's interesting.
Yeah. In an interview in 2020, when Nikki was asked about how she feels about her sentence, she deflected by saying she's living with this decision for the rest of her life. For the other women out there, she sees them and hears them, and someone will help them. At that time, she wanted to get back to her kids. Understandably so. They were still under the care of her sister, and fortunately, Chris's parents did have access to them.
Of course.
It was like, okay. To end the story, in looking at more recent news on the case, I did find that according to We Stand With Nikki, the website, which I didn't take a lot of information from because it was very biased, and that's not what I'm about.
Sure.
Nikki was released from prison earlier this year on January 4th.
Okay.
So 2024.
Makes sense.
And that is the story of Nikki Addimando and Chris Grover. Yeah.
That's heavy, man.
And I think
I asked for it, but that was heavy.
I did not intend to do a heavy case this month.
I know.
But then the New Yorker article, and I was like, well, fuck.
Okay, I'm on it. Got it.
Oh,
man.
So, I mean, my personal opinion is I do think Nikki should have served some time behind bars in prison, because what she did, you committed a crime. However, that doesn't mean I think she should have spent like 25 years. Like, I honestly think the 7.5 years, like, that's less than 10 years. Yes, you're missing time with your kids, but you're serving the crime. Okay, and now you're out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I might have a very unpopular opinion, but at the same time, it was like, okay, you committed murder. We're done.
So, I'm frustrated with that whole entire thing because I've never been in that situation. I am very happy I've never been in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, like, the weird psychological, emotional abuse type of stuff. Never to that extent. Yeah. But you had the opportunity and you decided to kill him. I'm not saying he does not deserve to die because, again, unpopular opinion, but if he's doing shit like that,
yeah, and
you have the opportunity to tell someone, please tell someone. Don't take it into your own hands. Mm-hmm. Like, I say this to myself all the time. Is it fucking worth going to jail over? Yeah. Is that asshole's life worth going to jail over? Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, I say no. Mm-hmm. Actually, 10 times out of 10, because I've never murdered someone before. But God knows with my psycho family, like,
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. Is it really worth going to jail over and ruining your absolute freaking life over?
Yeah.
My answer is no. I have never been in that situation, so I cannot actually say that, but
I mean, again, as someone who was in an emotionally abusive relationship, but not a physically abusive relationship, it's maybe not the most appropriate thing to comment on it, but at the same time, I agree. Like, she committed a crime. He did terrible shit to her. But I do feel like if she had really trusted the people who were clearly doing their job, which you hear all the time about people not doing their job.
These people were doing their job, it sounds like, which is really, really awesome. Thank you for people who do their jobs.
Yeah.
Well.
And it's just like, that was the determining thing for me, was it wasn't just the advocate, but it was the forensic medical personnel who were logging all of this shit. Mm-hmm. It was just, everyone involved were doing their jobs. So I feel like if she had tried to go out on a limb, really put her big girl pants on and said, I need to get the fuck away from him.
Yep.
I can't help but to think that she would have been able to get away from him. Like, it wouldn't have been easy by any means, and she would have entered a court custody battle.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, proper documentation, like, it was done. And that's what, like, really swayed me from being like, is Chris really being, like, seen as, like, is he really an abuser? Or is she being a manipulator? Mm-hmm. And again, the 2020 episode left me scratching my head because I was like, I don't know what to believe. And I honestly thought that a lot of the people who spoke on behalf of Nikki were being dramatic. I thought they were being actually over dramatic.
Wow.
I thought that they were really slandering this guy based on what I was seeing in the actual episode. Mm-hmm. But court documents don't lie.
No.
So.
No, seriously. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So again, I did not intend to make this real dark, but New Yorker changed it for me.
Yeah. that was dark. It's all good. There are organizations that can help with domestic abuse victims. I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I found 7 of them just by Googling it, but they are the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They can be reached at 800-799-7233, or you can text them at 88788. They also have a website, which we will post on Instagram. There is a New York State specific domestic violence abuse hotline. There's also, I didn't want to try and triangulate our location too hard, but there are county specific ones that I found. There's also one for the Salvation Army, Survivor Resources. It's called liveyourdream.org, National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And I actually found 14 organizations that provide financial support, because I feel like that's something that most people don't think about, where it's, there's the therapeutic support, there's the emotional support, but a lot of these victims don't
have their own money.
They don't have their own money. They're stay-at-home moms. They rely on their partner, which is why they don't leave, I feel sometimes. Where it's, how am I going to support my kids? How am I going to buy food? How am I going to pay for this, that, and the other thing? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my kids? So there's resources there, and I really hope that people still have faith in their local police departments, because I feel if you call your local police department and you say, I'm being abused, they're going to do something. Maybe I'm jaded by that because I have faith in our police. Like, here I have faith in our police. Me as knowing people, I feel like you and I both knowing people around here, know our families knowing people, we call one or two people. We have people that we know that are going to be there for us. Like, people on the police force that we know and trust are going to be there. And I'll be like, excuse me, you did what? And they're not going to put up with it. In big cities, I feel that's not always the case, and that's always a struggle. So I hope people have faith in their local police departments, but if not, there are 7 other resources that we're going to post in hopes that this is not... I hope people have faith in their police forces.
Yeah. I think
truly.
Another important thing is, like, a few years ago I spoke with a member who actually is one of your coworkers, and they're a parent of boys. And they were saying how...
Bless parents of boys, by the way.
Yeah. They're saying how there's a lot of, like, you know, like the girl power shirts that are, like, positivity and, like,
yes,
in your face?
Yes.
There's nothing for boys.
No.
And it's one of those things, I think that's why I'm a strong advocate of, like, looking at the overall picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, when parents are doing something right with their sons, there are good fucking men out there.
Yeah,
like,
there
our
are.
husbands are examples of really fucking good men.
I love my husband. He's very good to me. His parents did a very good job.
But, like, I understand how Chris's parents, like, they really haven't commented on anything. They've accused Nikki of being a master manipulator.
Sure.
They're very resentful, which I can understand to an extent.
Absolutely 100%.
But at the same time, like, where do boys learn these traits?
That's a great question. That is a great question of, wait a minute.
Yeah. And I mean, this can go both ways.
Yes.
Like, when you have someone who is physically and emotionally abusive, where did they learn this from?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like, you look at serial killers, it's not necessarily learned behavior and what they've seen, but it's something going on with their noggins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like making sure that during the development stage in someone's life, like, if there are signs, you got to pay attention to that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, as we had mentioned, there's a lot of kids in the district that you work in where it's not pretty, but it's also, like, that's why, like, as teachers and me working with you as a sub, like, trying to compose ourselves in the most professional manner, trying to build a relationship with them, and showing, like, okay, this kid's in trouble for doing XYZ, but I'm not going to berate them about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the consequence. So I definitely think, like, consequences need to be implemented so it can help with this. But that's my opinion.
Opinions are like assholes.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what do we have going on for July?
Next, books. Again, yes, you heard me right. Books, plural. We had a great little dynamic duo here. And now we're going to do some more dynamic duos.
Triple.
It is going to be a triple dynamic duo. I need to read the third book, by the way.
Well, I just bought it, like, a week
this
ago.
one.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've read that one.
Well, that's the second book.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
What are we reading?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like showing things and I can't show things. We are reading the dynamic duo trio. Excuse me. Hi. Frida McFadden's trio of The Housemaid, The Housemaid's Secret, and The Housemaid is Watching. So I've read the first 2. Anna's read all 3 because she's a psycho. And has way too much time on her hands, obviously. And if any of you have read any Frida McFadden, I am going to tell you right off the bat that...
Buckle up.
Buckle up, Buttercup. The ending is not what you expect. And if you guess the ending, please let us know, because I'd be very fascinated if you can actually guess the endings of these books accurately, because I was floored.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have the second book by chance?
Thought you had it.
Do I still have it?
Yeah.
Oopsies! I left the second book. Oh, well, that's
Hold
fine.
on. So read the description for that. I'll find the second one.
Okay, so all of them kind of involve Millie, who's the house cleaner. Is Enzo in the third one as well? Because I need to read the third one. I haven't read the third one yet. And Enzo is in all of them. And I'll let you know. First book. Every day, I clean the Winchesters' beautiful house top to bottom. I pick up their daughter from school, and I cook a delicious meal for the whole family before heading up to eat alone in my tiny room on the top floor. I try to ignore how Nina makes a mess just to watch me clean it up, how she tells strange lies about her own daughter, and how her husband, Andrew, seems more broken every day. But as I look into Andrew's handsome brown eyes, so full of pain, it's hard not to imagine what it would be like to live Nina's life. The walk-in closet, the fancy car, the perfect husband. I try on one of Nina's pristine white dresses once just to see what it's like, but she soon finds out. And by the time I realize my attic bedroom door only locks from the outside, it's far too late. But I reassure myself, the Winchesters don't know who I really am. They don't know what I'm capable of. I gotta say, reading the first and second books, the first book got me pretty darn good.
I was like, holy shit.
I enjoyed the second book, but I was expecting a little twist and turn because I'd read the first book.
Well, there was a twist and turn, but not what we were expecting with a trend.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely, but I've also read others of her books, so it's like in reading The Teacher, there was the twists and the turns, but I was expecting a twist and turn. Not like I was in this book. I was not expecting that hard of a turn in this book. So We'll be covering that one. Here's the second one because Anna was so lovely to pull it up for me since I forgot the book at home this morning. It's fine. So again, sequel to The Housemaid. It's hard to find an employer who doesn't ask too many questions about my past. So I thank my lucky stars that the Garricks miraculously give me a job cleaning their stunning penthouse with views across the city and preparing fancy meals in their shiny kitchen. I can work here for a while, stay quiet until I get what I want. It's almost perfect. But I still haven't met Mrs. Garrick or seen inside the guest bedroom. I'm sure I hear her crying. I notice spots of blood around the neck of her white nightgowns when I'm doing laundry. And one day I can't help but knock on the door. When it gently swings open, what I see inside changes everything. That's when I make a promise. After all, I've done this before. I can protect Mrs. Garrick while keeping my secrets locked up safe. Douglas Garrick has done wrong. He is going to pay. It's simply a question of how far I'm willing to go. So there's number 2. Again, kind of same sort of premise. So good.
Do you know what the third book's about?
No,
You are cold reading this one.
I am cold reading this one. So, okay. Gonna fan myself for a minute. We'll go from there. Here we go. I used to clean other people's houses. Now I have one of my own. The charming kitchen, the quiet cul-de-sac, the huge yard where my kids can play. My husband and I work so hard for this life. I hope it's Enzo. When our neighbor invites us to dinner, a maid opens the door. Looking at her white apron and neat hair is like looking in the mirror. I know exactly what it's like to be in her shoes. But her cold stare gives me chills. That's not the only strange thing here. I'm sure I see a shadowy figure watching us. My husband leaves the house late at night, and one woman's words chill me to the bone. Be careful of your neighbors. I thought I'd left my darkest secrets behind, but could this quiet street be the most dangerous place of all? How far can one woman go to protect the life she's so carefully built for herself? The housemaid returns in this pulse-pounding roller coaster of a thriller from New York Times best-selling author Frida McFadden. And now I want to read it today.
Well, it's yours to borrow. I just read it in the last few days.
I was about to say, did you read this in 24 hours?
Probably.
Because I was about to say, when did you buy this?
So it came out on, I believe the release date was It
was a Wednesday, wasn't it?
Probably
or a Monday?
The 19th. And our local bookstore had it early.
Yes, they did, because I remember.
I was like,
I think it was on a Monday, because there was a day where you were in school on a Monday and a Friday and not on a Wednesday.
Yeah, so the release date was on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And I got it on the day before the release date.
Oh my gosh!
It is so good. So either way, yes, there's more to read this month, but at the same time, as we most likely all know at this point, Frida McFadden, you can fly through her books.
I was about to say, I've been very impressed with how fast of reads she's had. I need to finish my first book first. I cannot be in the middle of physical reading of 2 books, or else I will mess myself up. I've done that once before. Woof.
So that is the end of this episode. Make sure to follow us on our socials.
Instagram is Books, Booze, Murder. And we also have Spotify and YouTube at Books, Booze, Murder. And if you have any stories or book suggestions, you can email us at booksboozemurder@gmail.com. And we'll see if we can go into it. Again, this is summer, so we might be doing something a little bit different for summer.
We might have a treat for fans.
All right.
Until next time.
Toodles.